like the questions, some people were saying this might be a bit more easier, which I feel like might be.
You mean the heart part?
Yeah, the cardiovascular.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges with the muscles and the bones is the vastness of it. It's just so much, and it's difficult to limit and define it. And for the students, that creates more anxiety because it's much more open ended. When a heart is a heart, and you don't have like layers of muscles in the hand, it just have one heart, and you define its points. Of course, there is then more smaller parts that get described, and it has definitely a lot of anatomy with it too, but a lot of it is also the physiology, how the stuff works. And we go briefly a little bit into the physiology of how the heart functions in the lecture portions, just to get a context for it. But the lab is pretty much, and then a lot of the activities also in the lecture are very anatomy based. And so it gets, from that perspective, I do believe it gets a little bit easier. But
Yeah,
you let me know afterwards. I've been, it's I've been around, and you guys also start working on the nervous system as well. So that's the brain's really cool too. It's a very cool system. I think a lot of students usually like that system a lot. But for us, we first gonna go through the cardio and have a lecture on the heart itself, and then we're gonna have blood vessels and the lymphatics. The lymphatics system is kind of, goes parallel to the system, the venous system that returns the blood from the body back to the heart. When you think of the heart pumping the blood through the arteries and pushing it into the body, and then a lot of that blood seeps into the tissues, and it gets returned via the veins. You've probably heard the word veins before, but then also the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system sort of has finger-like extensions that go into the tissues, and the liquids can flow in, but they can't go back out. And then we often know the lymphatic systems for the system that spreads cancer through the body. So that's also a conduit for, unfortunately, for pathologies to spread. And I think you probably heard of lymph nodes, or when you're swollen lymph nodes in the neck, they get, when you're sick, or when one gets sick, they get a little bigger because the immune system is heavily represented in the lymphatic system. And so it's one of the places where the immune system uses as its anatomical structure to do its work. The blood vessels as well, but the lymphatics, especially the lymph nodes, is where a lot of white blood cells are sitting in. So that's kind of the overview of that. And then, in the heart, you have the interesting thing about the heart. It's like it's a pump, right? It's got muscle around it, and it's got a chamber on the inside that's, when it contracts and squeezes, that pushes the inside into vessels, or into the aorta, and also into the vessels that go to the lungs. So we have, actually, what's interesting, we have two hearts in reality. We have, or two pumps in one heart. So we have one half of the heart pumps the blood through the body, and then the other half of the heart pumps the blood to the lungs. And in the lungs, what happens is the blood gets oxygenated and gets filled with oxygen, and also gets rid of toxins and carbon dioxide and things like that. So whatever is a gas exchange, we can sort of have happen in the lungs. And then that oxygenated blood comes back to the heart from the lungs, and then gets pumped in that second pump through the whole system, through the body. And so it's almost like the heart is a double pump. So it ends up having four chambers that we will describe. And they are both pumps have a chamber that receives the blood from the body or from the lungs, and then it drops into a larger chamber. It's called an ejection chamber, the ventricles, and from there then the blood gets pumped into the two different circuits, either go through the system, the body, or to the lungs to refill with oxygen. So that's kind of the way the heart works, as a quick overview. And then the blood vessels just talks about the structure of the blood vessels and what their name, some of them what they're called. A lot of the names when you look at blood vessels and also when you look at nerves goes now back to the naming that we have in chapter 1, like the region of the body. Like if something goes through the arm, it's called brachial. If it's called the brachial artery, or the biceps brachii, or the brachialis, as muscles go, that word brachio in there refers then to the arm, and a lot of the naming, a lot of the blood vessel namings are the location that they travel through, then they get the name of that location. So that, like, under the armpit, your artery is going to be called the axillary artery, and so that's sort of where it's going to go with that. So that's kind of, I find that interesting to kind of understand a little bit as a fundamental concept, because um, make sure you refer back to those charts that show the body regions. If you get lost and just memorize names, try to not just memorize names. That gets difficult. And so that's the blood vessels. We don't have questions on the lymphatics, but we have questions on the blood vessels. I think the lymphatics are probably a couple questions in there. I have to reach back to that and look. And then we don't do a labeling of the blood vessels. I don't label all the little vessels. You do that in lab. But we do have a coloring labeling activity for the the heart itself, because
I think you're
that's.
breaking up on my end
Am
a
I? Uh-oh.
bit.
I hope let me see. My reception is all right. Can you hear me better now or no? Let me take.
No, I mean, so you're
Okay.
pausing a bit on my end.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna post the video in a minute too when we're finished. That way, at least, hopefully, that is good. But what I was saying with the oops, where am I here? Uh, we can finish up shortly as well. We don't have that much going on really. But these are the terms of the heart. See, that's much less than the muscles that I want you to identify on the pictures and then color. I know Mr. Estrella has probably a few different terms, or a few additional terms to it, but those are the ones that I want you, and that gives you a pretty good fundamental understanding of the heart itself. And then the other, it's probably using a lot of activity here. I don't know. You're still having me chopped, or is it better if I'm staying on one page? Well, let me just finish up. I mean,
That's still choppy,
it's still
but
choppy. Okay,
it, but yeah,
you get the
I
gist.
think I'll be able to rewatch the video and it should
Okay.
be all right.
The only other question, the other thing I have in this week is sort of, as you finish up with the injury prevention thing, which I don't know, was that all right, or was that too over the top? Because it's pretty involved activity, the injury prevention. Well, I can't hear you now, but I'm going to be reading the discussions on it, and see how you guys felt about that. But we're just having a little discussion about it to finish up that project. And I'm still grading the some of the evaluations when we finish here. And then on my end, you got some lab activities that come up. That's Mr. Stray's part, and he probably gonna open them up pretty soon as well. But then we finish up with the questions and tips, and I'm really appreciative of all your posts. I definitely try to go through those diligently and learn from them to make the class, a better experience for you, or understand what we're doing right and keep doing that as well. But with that, and especially with the understanding that the reception is kind of crappy, um, maybe we'll close it out pretty soon, and I'll just put up the video, and you guys can just go through that briefly. It's not really that much happening this week. I think it's next week we have a health kit activity that comes back, but this week we had a lot of that going on, so we need a little bit of a break from that, I think, or you guys do. All right, and with that, I'm good to get on to let you get to the rest of your day, but I do want to ask Alina, if you have any questions. Although I can't see you have a microphone, so maybe that's not actually a question here. That's answerable. But reach out also on Pronto if you have questions, or I do try to get to the emails as well. Especially been caught up last week with those the Canvas emails, and we can correspond that way. Oh, there you go. Are you on? How you doing, Alina?
I'm good. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to let my computer allow the microphone. Yeah, right. I didn't know it wasn't working until I was looking at it. Sorry.
That's all right. I hope I didn't chop up your name too heavily.
No, it's fine. I answer to anything close to it.
Oh, that's. I mean, I got to do the same with my name. Believe
right.
Do you have any questions, concerns, things that you like to bring up or talk about, or that I can help you with?
Nothing pertaining on what you're discussing right now. It was just more along the facts because I did email you over Pronto for the turning in the late assignments, and I saw yesterday. I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple days before, but yesterday was like the cutoff date for I guess assignments. I just don't know if that was for all like the assignments we discussed or the ones that were for the past couple weeks.
It on my end in the lecture, and I know I close them out at some point. The due date is different than when they close. I mean, the due date is the due date, and then they stay open for a while on my end. And so if you have something in the past that is not open or closed on the lecture end, I can open it for you. I don't.
Okay. Because I'm pretty sure all of them are still open right now. I was working on them yesterday because I was out of town for the weekend, but I'm almost done with all of them. I think I just have like 2 or 3 or 4 more assignments to do.
Good. Yeah, I saw a bunch of them. I'm in the grading mode this morning.
Right. Sorry for all of that bombardment.
That's all right. No, that's all right. That's, I mean, it's life gets busy. And things happen, and so at least we can, some of the stuff we can balance out. I mean, it's better, it's easier if it's done right when we do it as a class. But if if like, even the other thing I always want to tell and mention, if you didn't get full credit in discussions, then make sure you go back and do the replies, because that's usually where it's hung up. And it's
right. Really, I did see that for when you graded the week 1 understanding concepts. I did see at the bottom that you did mention that. So
yeah, and I know even if it's passed, it's some level, but it's good to read others and get a little more insight on those concepts. And that's really not difficult points to get.
Right.
It's just sort of busy work, and so that's one thing. And I just want to assure everybody you can go back and do that later or now. Right. I'm not letting it pass. I want to make sure you don't miss those points. And I kind of have to assign points too, otherwise nobody's going to do it.
Right. No, and I greatly appreciate you for letting me make them up. I do really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, on my end, that's okay.
But yeah, I think that was it for my end for questions.
Good. Yeah, and I guess the one thing I'm thinking of to mention again on that making up thing, even in the Pronto, if you did a Pronto and you didn't get credit, it is because you didn't, well, unless I missed one, but generally because a person doesn't put their name onto the text or into the type the top on at the title or text is fine, but I need to be able to allocate it to a person, otherwise it's hard to give credit. And so even those you didn't get credit, you think you did, you go back and put your name in and make sure that I get it, and shoot me a text that I know I have to go back to it. Good, but that's just a little announcement thing. All right, well, with that, if you guys are good, we can close it out.